Honors Algebra 2 and Algebra 2. Welcome to your Chapter 9. Write this down. Chapter 9 Game Plan, page 4. Chapter 9 Game Plan, page 4. And what you are to do on really just 9 and 11 here, because these are harder. But again, it doesn't matter because I'm giving you all the work and all the answers. So you can write this all down for me and submit it to me in the next 4 weeks. I believe in you. Write an equation for each circle given the endpoints of a diameter. Endpoints of a diameter, holy cow, negative 2, 8, and 0, negative 6. So first off, if I know the endpoints of a diameter, I know that the center of the circle would be the midpoints. So negative 2 plus 0 divided by 2, 8 plus a negative 6 divided by 2. Gives me a midpoint of negative 1, 1. So that is my center. Negative 1, 1 is my center. Now, if I know the endpoints of a diameter, I can figure out what the diameter is. The distance between those 2 points would be the diameter. Not the radius, but the diameter. Distance from negative 2 to 2 is 2 in the x direction. Distance from 8 to negative 6 is 14 in the x direction. Distance squared is 2 squared plus 14 squared. Distance squared is 200. The distance is the square root of 200, or that's a decimal. Just write this down, folks. You're welcome. That is 10 root 2. Well, that's the diameter. As we all know from geometry, the radius is half the diameter. What is half of 10 root 2? You guessed it, 5 root 2. So what I'm telling you here is you have a circle with a center of negative 1, 1 and a radius of 5 root 2. This is some real good pre-calculus prerequisite material there. So your equation would be x minus a negative 1 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 5 root 2 squared. Square 5 is 25. When you square the square root of 2, you get 2. 25 times 2 is 50. That is your answer. All that work I showed you, you need to have. Last one of that kind, negative 3, negative 1, and 1, negative 9 are endpoints of the diameter. Again, the midpoint is the center, so what I do is I take that negative 3, add it to 1, divide by 2. That negative 1, add it to negative 9, divide by 2. Negative 1, negative 5 would be my center. The diameter would be the distance between these 2 points. Negative 3 to 1, I went 4 in the x direction. Negative 1 to negative 9, I went 8 in the x direction. Distance squared would be 80, so the distance is the square root of 80. The square root of 80 is 4 root 5. The radius would be 2 root 5. So given a center of negative 1, negative 5, and a radius of 2 root 5, plug in right there, x plus 1 squared plus y plus 5 squared is equal to 2 root 5, all that squared. 2 root 5 squared is 20. That is my formula. That one is harder. Know how to do it for next year. We have in another video, your quiz review for this, gone over 13 and 14. Write an equation for each circle given its center and a point its graph goes through. Center negative 1, 3, it goes through 7, negative 3. Well, I can start with the center here. X minus a negative 1 is squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to the radius squared. That's what I have. I don't know what the radius is, so I have to plug in 7 for x. And I have to plug in negative 3 for y. Then I can do that arithmetic. When you square negative 6, folks, you get a positive 36, not a negative 36. So when I know r squared is 100, I plug 100 in for r squared. Number 14, with the center of negative 3, 8, I can do that. So x plus 3 squared plus y minus 8 squared is equal to r squared. I know that x is 2 when y is 4, so plug those values in for x and y. When I square negative 4, I get 16. The radius squared is 41. There we go. All right, that is page 4. That is page 4. Again, I'm going to go through this. That's how you graph a circle. I didn't graph it correctly. If the center is 3, 1, go over 3, 1. Radius is 4, up 4, down 4, right 4, left 4. Try to make your best circle. That's how you graph a circle. You'll have to know how to do that next year if you're in pre-calculus. Here, the center would be 1, 0, and the radius is 4. 1, 0, up 4, down 4, right 4, left 4. Make a circle. Again, that is not required here. We're going to move on to the next required page, which is page 5. Chapter 9 Game Plan, page 5. Write that down. These are definitely pre-calculus worthy. This was the last question, I believe, in the final exam review guide. Find the center and radius of each circle. Write that down. You're going to have to complete the score twice. X squared minus 6x plus y squared minus 8y. Or plus y squared plus 8y minus 13 is 0. Move the 13 over to the other side. Always move the constant over there. What you're going to do is complete the score twice. You're going to take half of negative 6, which is negative 3, and square it. That is a positive 9. If I add 9 to the left, I need to add 9 to the right. Then I look at y here. I'm going to take half of that middle term, which is 8. Take half of 8, that's 4. Square 4 to get 16. Again, I have to complete the square. Y, that is the standard form of the equation. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared. If I add 16 to the left, I got to add 16 to the right. That means 38's on the right side. X minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared is equal to 38. The center is always the opposite. What makes this 0? Positive 3. Negative 4 is the center. The radius is the square root of 38. Number 2. Again, get x squared and 2x together. Get y squared and 4y together. That 9 needs to stay where it's at. Okay, then I take half of 2, which is 1. I square 1. If I add 1 to the left, add 1 to the right. Then, the middle term right there with y, 4y, take half of it. Half 4 is 2. I square 4. I square 2 to get 4. If I add 2 to the left, if I add 4 to the left, I add 4 to the right. That's 14 now. That factors b, x plus 1, all that squared, plus y plus 2, all that squared is equal to 14. The center is negative 1, negative 2, and the radius is square root of 14. Again, put the x's together. X squared plus 8x plus y squared minus 6y is equal to 0. I take half that middle term, which is 4, square 4 to get 16. If I add 16 to the left, I got to add 16 to the right. I take half of negative 6 is negative 3. I square it to get 9. If I add 9 to the left, I got to add 9 to the right. That gives me 25 on the right side. This factors the b, x plus 4 squared. This factors the b, y minus 3 squared equals 25. The radius is the square root of 25, which is 5. The center is negative 4, positive 3. And that is Chapter 9 Game Plan, page 5. Then we talk about an ellipse. If you're going to take pre-calc next year, write this. It's kind of an oval. An ellipse centered at the origin has one of the following equations. X squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. A squared is the major axis. So a is the major axis. B is the minor axis. 2a is the length of the major axis. 2b is the length of the minor axis. You'll learn more of that next year. But a is associated with the major axis. B is associated with the minor axis. A squared is always bigger than b squared. So you could have an ellipse that's elongated horizontally, or it could be elongated vertically. Think about that football and how it's tilted. Second equation could be x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1. Okay? Write that down. This is not a page that you do need, though, for this game plan. I'm just going to show you how we would graph that. A squared is always bigger, so a squared would be 16. A would be 4. It's under x squared, so we would go 4 to the right and 4 to the left. B squared is 9, so b is 3. It's associated with y there. We would go up 3 and down 3. The closer a and b are together, the more it will look like a circle. All right, anyway, that's the name of the game there. Then you have the hyperbola. X squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. Again, if you're going to pre-calc next year, write this down. Or y squared could be written first. Y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared is 1. A squared is not necessarily bigger than b squared. A squared kind of tells you where the curve opens up. What I mean by that is this. Y squared goes first, and it's going to open up on the y-axis. A squared would be equal to... a squared is equal to 4, so a would be 2. So on the y-axis, go up 2, down 2. Don't worry about those. Those are birthmarks there. B squared is 9, so b is 3. I go over 3 to the right, 3 to the left. Now what I did is I made a dotted rectangular box. These imaginary asymptotes go through the vertices, and then they help shape this graph. It opens up. It opens, the curve opens up, then it opens down. Okay, in class, it'd be very easy to graph that together. Just know this for next year. If x squared is written first, and that means a squared is 16, a is 4, I'd go 4 to the right, 4 to the left. B squared is 4, so b is 2. I'd go up 2 on the y-axis, down 2. I'd make this a dotted rectangular box through the vertices there. All right, the diagonals. Vertices of my diagonals there. I would make that dotted line, and then because x squared goes first, it would open up to the right and to the left. Again, that is more for next year if you're going to take pre-calc. We are going to skip a little bit until we're going to skip quite a bit here. This is it. Page 6, Chapter 9, Game Plan, page 6. This is where you are going to write the following. So you don't have to write the numbers there. You just put, and just write, yeah, do write it. Number 13 through 24. Given the equation of a conic section in standard form, name it. Circle, hyperbola, or ellipse. Which is on the past quiz. All right, and I'm going to pause it right here, and your last video will be covering the end. This is Zach Math Videos for a short period, signing out.